never gives up. He's always there, fighting for freedom over land and air. G.I. Joe! G.I. Joe is there!
Good morning, everybody. Mac here. Welcome back to the show. Welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons. And yes, I know for a series that's called Saturday Morning Cartoons, it's kind of become mostly G.I. Joe. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Mainly, the first one being, I don't collect nearly as many things associated to, like, Saturday cartoons as I originally thought I did. But also, G.I. Joe is kind of my thing, and was kind of my favorite toy line when I was a kid, my favorite comic, my favorite cartoon. So, as we go through the line, that's going to pretty much dominate my Saturday mornings. Now, what we have here is Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, G.I. Joe Classified Series, Snake Eyes. The Snake Eyes from the movie that came and went really fast. And I honestly didn't think I was going to be getting this figure, just because it doesn't really do anything for me. This version of Snake Eyes doesn't really do anything for me. I have my favorite version of Snake Eyes right now, and I'm also getting the Commando version of Snake Eyes that hopefully will be here someday, but my order keeps getting delayed on shipment. I know there's a whole bunch of things getting delayed with shipment right now. So I ordered Storm Shadow, I ordered Baroness from this line. I also ordered Scarlet, but she hasn't come in yet. And I thought two things. One, there's only 5 figures for the movie, so I might as well get Snake Eyes, and I might as well get the new one that I think her name is Akiko. I think that's what her name is. And I also left it to fate that if I saw this in the wild, I would pick it up, but I wasn't going to order it. Well, fate hit me in the face with a cinder block, because there are a lot of these at my local Targets and Walmarts, so I figured I would just pick it up, and I'll just complete the movie line, and I'll have all the figures. Now, up front, we have your standard look for the classified box. However, this is all outlined in black. You have the Articulation logo you can see through the window in the back, and it looks like the good guys are going to get a white background, whereas Baroness and Storm Shadow, the bad guys, are going to have a black background. So it's kind of interesting to see a different background for that. We have animation of Snake Eyes down here. Turning to the side, we have more animation of Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes without his mask. We have the movie shot of him. Not really sure what the dragon is supposed to be. I'm guessing that's something to do with the Articulation from the movie. I don't think that has any meaning in the comic. And we have their the file card system here. And then, of course, on the side here, we have number 16, which I'm guessing is supposed to be 16 in the series, but I really don't know how their numbering is going. We have 16 again up top, the Arashikage symbol. So, without any further ado, let's just get this open, and let's get him out of the box, and we will take a look at Snake Eyes, G.I. Joe Origins, G.I. Joe Classified Series, Snake Eyes. Okay, friends, here he is out of the box. We have Snake Eyes, and the first thing we're going to do, as we always do, is we put the tape measure to him, and we see that Snake Eyes comes in at about 6 1/4 inches tall. So that does put him in line with the rest of the Classified series. Now, taking a look at his articulation, and this is where we're going to start to see some differences, not necessarily problems, but some differences from your typical Classified series figure. He can't really look up. He has this collar here that interferes with him, so he can't really look up, but he can look down. And you can see he has the standard ball joint on a hinge, but when you crank it back, like I said, this collar gets in the way of his helmet, that he can't really, he can't really look up very much. He can do the full 360. As you saw, he can look up and down. No real tilt to speak of. A little bit, but no, not really. Now his arms are stiff, and they only come up to there, just under 90 degrees. Now, they are very stiff, at least on mine. So if you try to grab it, I wouldn't say grab it by the bicep, because you might start to bend that hinge point. Try and get a little down pressure on the shoulder because it feels like there's a detent in there, but there's only one. Listen. Like, it seems like that's all there is. He does have his bicep swivel, double jointed elbows with some really good travel, wrists swivel, and both of them hinged. Are they both hinged? Yeah, both of them are hinged up and down. This one doesn't seem to want to move. It might be stuck. But if we take a look at this one, I know this one does go up and down. So that one moves. They both do. This one's just sticking a little bit right now. There is a cut in here. Let's see if we can focus. There is a cut in here, and you can see that it has a butterfly joint. It might be hard to see considering this is all black, but there's not a whole lot of movement to it. There's not a great range of movement, as you can see. And that's because the sculpt and everything on this is so narrow and so tight that there's not a whole lot of room for much of anything. Now, he does have an ab crunch. You can see he can crunch forward. He can crunch back. He has a swivel ball joint at the waist that he can really get back if you use that. And he can, it doesn't do much for the forward, but it does also rock side to side. And he has a waist twist. Now, he has the drop down legs, just like Classified does. And they can come all the way out to the side, which is good for a ninja. He has a thigh swivel, which is really well hidden by this armor plate right here. Camera's having trouble focusing because it's all black. I'm up close. But you can see that that armor plate, it does a really good job of hiding the thigh swivel. He has double jointed knees that have some good travel. They don't come all the way up, but that's respectable. No boot cut. He has the thigh swivel, and that's it. There's nothing in the boot, but his ankles go back, go forward, and a forward-facing pin for rock. Oh, and his legs do come up that far up front and to the back. So that is what he has for articulation. The only thing he's blatantly missing is the boot cut, and the butterfly joints don't really work the way they should, or at least they don't work the way that they do on other Classified figures. And this wrist is sticking, but I don't think that's a problem of the figure. I think I just need to loosen that up a little bit. Okay, now we're going to take a look at the sculpt. And any fault we have with the sculpt is not the fault of the figure, and I don't think it's the fault of the team that worked on it. It is a very accurate representation from what I've seen of how Snake Eyes was portrayed in the movie. It's a very armored look. It's more armored than I think we've seen from Snake Eyes in the vintage line or in this Classified line. Can't speak of Sigma 6. Didn't watch that, but this is probably the most armor I've seen on Snake Eyes so far. He has this armored chest piece here. He has these armor plates like you saw on his thighs, armored knee pads, armored boots, the helmet, because that's what it is. This isn't a ninja mask like you saw on the other Snake Eyes. This is basically a motorcycle helmet that we saw in the show. And it is a very much more of a helmeted look than a masked look. Hold on one second. See here, you can see the difference, how it has that, focus, how it slopes forward more. This is a helmet, but I don't know, it has the breather holes. There's just something more aesthetically pleasing to me about this one than this one. It might also be because this one has this silver in the visor that it gives it some color, it gives it some depth. This is the retail release version of Snake Eyes with the special edition, the limited edition head on it. I sort of mixed and matched and made the Snake Eyes that I like the most. But you can see the difference in the helmet of the sculpt, in the sculpt of the helmet. You can see the difference in the torso. Like I said, this is much more armored. Not a whole lot of color to this either. And that's saying, I know he's supposed to have a black bodysuit, but all he really has are these occasional hits of red, this silver for the buckle, and then the Arashikage logo on his shoulder, which I think is actually the wrong shoulder, but... And I know this is basically a black bodysuit as well, but you get a lot more splashes of silver on it, silver in the buckles. You get different shades of black. You have the gloss black for the knee pads and his boots. You have a matte black, or at least a duller black for his pants. There's different shades of black in his torso. And like I said, with this, you get the silver for the helmet. And you get... I should put the green sheath on him too. But you do get more of a color variation, a little bit more detail, dimension, depth than this one. This looks like a $20 figure. This, hold on, looks way too much like this $10 figure that we picked up earlier this year. As you can see, that this pretty much is just a downsized version of this. In fact, I would argue that this one actually has more color and more detail to it because they added in the gray, they added in this chest piece right here. He has more silver in the belt. And I get that this is more movie accurate and this is meant for kids. I get that, but they could have, I don't know, this is just bland, to be honest. It's very bland. Now, the sculpting, as you can see right here, the detail on the back, the armor plating down his spine, on his butt, the wrinkles in the pants, the sculpting is very well done. And I don't think Hasbro did anything wrong. It's just this is the way he looked in the movie. Okay, hey, Mac from the future here. I had finished the video, and then when I was playing around with him, I noticed something else. That on his arms here, on his inner arms, I don't know if you can see because of its high gloss black, but there is a snakeskin pattern on the inside of his forearms. Now that's a really cool attention to detail. I couldn't find it anywhere else on the figure, like it's not in the neck, there's nothing in the thighs or in the legs that I could find, nothing on the back. And once again, that's a shame because I get that this is the fault of the costume and not the figure. But I think if they would have taken that snakeskin pattern, maybe made it a little bit more pronounced and actually used it a little bit more on the legs and the torso, I think that could have added something to this version of Snake Eyes that none of the other ones, as far as I know right now, none of the other ones have. And that would have been cool. Now, for accessories, of course, the first thing we're going to take a look at and the first thing we're going to get out of the way is this, the unmasked head of Snake Eyes, which, after this video, I don't think this is ever going to go on him again. But all you do is you just like any Hasbro figure, you pop that off, and then you put that right on. And there you have it. And, yeah, granted, you get some much-needed detail, some, change of coloring for the figure, but it's Snake Eyes. And I get this is an origin figure, but this was my problem with the movie in the first place. If you have the look of Snake Eyes, if you have Snake Eyes talking, you take away all of the mystique of this figure, of this character. Like, even in the comics in the 80s, when they drew him in flashbacks, he always had sunglasses on and he still never spoke. There was still that air of mystique about him. This just kind of ruins the whole thing, for me at least anyway. If you saw the movie and you liked it, I'm very happy for you. I'm very glad somebody enjoyed it and got something out of it. But for me, I knew I wasn't going to like it. That's why I didn't go see it, and everything that I've heard about it, yeah. He gets a little bit more looking up. He can still look down. Still gets the full 360. Still not a whole lot of tilt going on. Okay? Now, one thing, and I think they did a really good job, a really good likeness of the actor, whose name I can't remember right now. And I like the stubble. I like the grizzle that they gave him. The eyes look really good. These eyes are looking straight. They look intense. Like, I think this face sculpt is really good. The thing that I first thought when I put this on and I was looking at it, though, is that, to me, this looks more like Tommy. This looks more like Storm Shadow from the comics that I read growing up. So I was thinking maybe I could use that for an unmasked Storm Shadow. But if you remember how the ball joints on these figures are different from the classified series, that they're different size, well, they're even a different size between each figure because this is too loose. I don't know why they did this, that like even the ball joints on these figures are different sizes. So there's no swapping of the heads between even the movie figures. And I can't help but think that that might have something to do, like I've said before, with likeness rights and not wanting to have them represent different figures or something. I don't know. Maybe something in contracting. I don't know how likeness rights work, but that's the only thing I can think of. Now, something else that we get with him is this katana. And some of this may look familiar to you, and it should, because it is the same katana, or at least the sheath is, that we got from this figure. The $10 core figure that we got. You can see they're the same size. The sheaths are the same. Now, when you take them out, there is a little bit of a difference in the sculpt of the blade. It may just also be that this one is molded in a shinier plastic, but the hilts are a little different. Like this one that came with Snake Eyes, this version of Snake Eyes is a little bit thinner than this one, it looks. But they are basically the same sword. And if you remember when we were looking at this one from the $10 figure, I was wondering if it was going to be big enough to work with some of the 6-inch figures. And apparently it is, because it's the same size as this one. And the sheaths are definitely the same, and that just fits right in there. But this does fit very well in his hand. And he does look good holding it. Once you have it all sheathed up, he does have a hole on his back like all of the classified figures do. You have to get this harness lined up to fit through the hole, much like a lot of the classified figures do. And then once that's pegged in there, it pretty much holds everything in place. It keeps his harness, it keeps everything together. And it doesn't look bad on him. And then he also has these guys, twin butterfly sabers. Now, when I put these in his hands, the first thing I thought was, man, these look really small. These look like regular daggers. These don't look like butterfly sabers. But then I pulled out this guy again, our $10 figure. He has two of them. I don't know what happened to the other one right now. It's around here somewhere. But the ones that the $10 figure came with are bigger than the ones that came with him. You can see the full size right here. So they both have a decent amount of detail to them. It's just that the one that came with the classified Snake Eyes has more paint on it, but it's black, and I'm guessing that's just supposed to give it some texture, some depth. But the one that came with the core figure is bigger. And it looks good in his hand. These little guys, because he has these gripped hands, you kind of have to pry the hand open a little bit, get it in there, and then twist it so that the finger guards don't get in the way. But you can see what I mean, that... get in there. Get in there. There you go. You can see what I mean, that the one that came with him looks kind of small. The one that comes with the core figure seems to be a better size, a little bit more accurate size for what it's supposed to be. There's also no place to sheathe the butterfly swords, which is kind of disappointing because I remember there was one of the Snake Eyes versions that came out in the vintage line where he actually had crossed butterfly swords across his chest. It would have been really cool if they would have done something like that with this harness, where you could sheathe the butterfly sabers across his chest plate. But like I said, this is a movie figure, so I understand the limitations that they had. Alright, now for some size comparisons, here he is with the G.I. Joe Classified Snake Eyes Origin Storm Shadow and the standard G.I. Joe Classified Snake Eyes. So you can see that he does match up with both the movie figures and the standard classified line. Here he is with the G.I. Joe Origin Snake Eyes core figures, Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, both at the 6-inch scale, a little bit shorter than the classified series. Here he is with Marvel Legends Captain Marvel and Black Widow movie series Black Widow. Here he is with Lanyard Toy Xenomorph Drone and City Hunter Predator. I'm pretty sure Snake Eyes has fought the Predator at one point or another. Sticking with the cartoon ninja theme, here he is with the Playmates 2-pack Leonardo and Rocksteady from TMNT. And as always, here he is with Jazzware's Wicked Cool Toys, Master Chief and Cat from the Spartan Collection. So, speaking in all honesty, I knew I was going to be disappointed in this figure when I bought it, and I kind of am. The sculpt is good, but it's very plain, it's very drab, and once again, I understand that is not a fault of the figure, that is not a fault of the people that worked on this figure, that is completely a fault of the movie, that the body armor suit he wore was very featureless, very smooth, very bland, to be honest, much like the figure is. The lack of an Uzi is also confusing to me because it's Snake Eyes. He always has his Uzi with him, and he used one in the movie. I saw him use it in the trailer. I don't know how long he had it, but he did have it in the trailer, and that's something else that's kind of is rubbing me the wrong way about these movie figures, is the complete lack of accessories compared to the normal classified figures that the movie figures are coming with. Like Baroness came with a machine gun and a removable magazine and removable glasses that I'm convinced they made removable glasses just so they could say, look, an accessory. Storm Shadow came with his back sheath and 2 swords that were basically the same swords that came with the $10 figures. And once again, this version of Snake Eyes, he comes with a sword that is very reminiscent, almost the same sculpt, definitely the same size as what came with the $10 figure, and 2 butterfly sabers that, quite frankly, aren't as good as the ones that came with the $10 figure. And yes, I understand that Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow have additional heads, but I would rather have more accessories, more weapons, more things that came with the figures rather than the unmasked heads. But I get it, it's a movie figure, you have to get the likeness of the actor involved in there somehow. And the movie figures, they just come across as cheap. Like, for the lack of accessories, they're still the same price as the standard classified figures, but with the classified figures, especially like ones like Firefly and Beachhead and the Cobra Trooper, you're getting a lot of accessories for your 20 or 22 or whatever price the figure is. You're getting a lot of accessories packed in with the figure. The movie figures in the boxes, they're just like lost in this sea of nothing inside the box. Like, the box for the classified figures seems to be that size because they have all the accessories in there. With the movie figures, there's just a lot of dead space. Heck, even Scarlet, once I get Scarlet, Scarlet only comes with the crossbow. That's it. It doesn't look like she comes with a quiver or anything else. So after a little bit of rambling, what I guess I'm trying to say is this Snake Eyes is pretty much going to go into the tub. Probably won't see him again. Might use the katana to put on my display Snake Eyes, so that the final Snake Eyes that I have will be an amalgamation of this one, the limited edition, and then the retail edition, and then probably Timber from my Commando set, my Commando release, once that finally comes. I also understand that some people may be buying this just because they need a Snake Eyes for their collection, because I do know that Snake Eyes was hard to find. In fact, I don't think he's even really available for sale anymore. Not the first release of him, and definitely not the limited Hasbro Pulse edition, unless you want to pay secondary market prices. And there is the Commando version coming, but if you wanted one that had like this type of head on it, then you don't have too many other options, and this would do well to stand in if you don't have another version of Snake Eyes. So there is that. Another disappointment is, and I didn't think it would be that big of a deal, but you don't realize how big of a difference a boot cut makes on a 6-inch figure until you're trying to pose him and you don't have the boot cut anymore. So yeah, all in all, sorry this one's kind of a downer. If you have this one and you like it, that's great. Remember, these are just my opinions. I'm not trying to tell anybody they're wrong if they like this figure. This just isn't this just isn't for me. I'll use the sword, and that's about it. And then he's going to go in the tub. So, let me know what you think. But we do have more coming down the line, and I promise things will be better. We have more coming for Bricktober. We have more of the Motu minifigures, the micro action figures coming down the line. So until then, happy Halloween, everyone. Stay safe, stay healthy, and as always, thank you for watching.
Its purpose, to defend human freedom against Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
He never gives up, he'll stay till the fight's won. G.I. Joe will dare. G.I. Joe!